we are continuing our series of 11 UIL 11-man Texas high school football coaches. If you missed last week's episode, I guess we started this series out. We talked about some of the best current UIL 11-man Texas high school football coaches and basically put them into three categories. We talked about the coaches that had the most wins overall in their careers. We talked about the coaches that have the most playoff wins. And then, of course, we talked about the coaches that have acquired the most state titles in their career. So this week, we're just going to continue on with that series. So let's go ahead and start off with the coaches that have been coaching, I guess, the longest. So UIL 11-man Texas high school football coaches that have been coaching in Texas the absolute longest. And we're continuing with only the current coaches in this list. So starting off, of course, we have Randy Allen, 42 years. Now, actually, disclaimer, at the very top of this list, it was Phil Danaher with 48 years. But, of course, he is not current, so he is not included in this list. But at number 1, we have Randy Allen. Number 2, Jerry Bomar of Groesbeck.
The GOATs.
The GOAT. Number 3, Denny Faith, 36 years at Albany. And that's just at Albany, which is crazy. 36 total years at one school.
Finally getting that illustrious state championship this year. That was still one of the coolest moments of the entire state championship, was watching Coach Faith after 36 years get that. Yeah,
that was really cool to be down on the sidelines and kind of being in the action with all the kids and stuff, celebrating with him. That was really cool to see. At number 4, Finis Vanover. They're in Livingston. Been in the game for 36 years. At number 5, Reginald Samples. Needs no introduction there at Duncanville. He finally got his first, just like Denny Faith, this past season for state championship. 33 years. At number 6, we have Larry Hill of Smithson Valley, 32 years, and that is all at Smithson Valley. So he hasn't gone anywhere else. He has coached at Smithson Valley for 32 years, which is insane. At number 7, Eddie Gill of Callisburg, 31 years. And then rounding out at number 8, we have Mark Kirchhoff with 30 years, and he is currently at Falls City. So really the only two on this list that have been there been at the same school their entire career are Denny Faith and Larry Hill.
Right.
Which is really stinking impressive if you think about it. I mean, seeing 36 years, 30 at one school, and then being as successful as they are. I mean, that's a crazy stat.
Well, and I mean, I think that was the biggest thing about Denny Faith finally winning that championship is it's one thing to be a really good coach and a good enough coach to where a school district does not get rid of you.
Right.
Because that means that you're having consistency year in and year out for them not to just throw in the talent and hire a new talent. But then to be patient enough to stick somewhere for 36 years and fundamentally coach. Like, I bet you most of the parents of the athletes that he was coaching this year, he probably coached them too.
Oh, exactly.
And so it's like to stick with it until you can finally get that championship is just unbelievable. But those numbers are all completed years. So all of these guys as of now are planning to return next year, so they'll be adding another year to this. But these are completed years of UIL 11-man Texas high school football coaches.
As of 2022. So pretty stinking cool to see them all stacked up like that. So now we're going to transition. We are moving away from just talking about current UIL 11-man Texas high school football coaches, and now we're really talking about the best of the best. So first off, we're going to take a look at the coaches that reached that 100-win milestone the quickest, and we're doing this in years. So starting off at number 1, Gary Joseph, 8 years. And I wrote down here the exact game that got them to that amount.
His
So
numbers.
it was a 55-3 win over Strake Jesuit Houston for those Katy Tigers. That's kind of cool. And then, of course, you see the little asterisk there by Gary Joseph, meaning that he is, of course, still active. Moving at number 2, Kevin Hoffman. Took him 8 years to get to that 100-win milestone. And that 54-0 win over Dawson this year, actually in 2022, is when he hit that
Oh, wow.
a 100-win milestone. Number 3 is Hank Carter, of course, still active there at Lake Travis. Took him 8 years. And a 49-14 win over San Antonio Madison is what got him there.
Yeah, all of those years of state championship will get you adding up 16 wins pretty quickly.
Yes, very quickly. Yeah, most of these, I mean, there's only mostly 8 years and then a couple 9 years. But I mean, they're so closely stacked together. It's so close. And never mind. We'll just get moving on to it. At number 4, Butch Ford of Salina. Took him 8 years. 35-14 win over Van Alstyne back in 2009 is when he reached that 100-win milestone. And number 5, the recently promoted Rice. What is his title at Rice?
He's the tight end or linebackers coach.
Yeah, defensive analyst linebackers coach. Yes, there at Rice. The former North Shore head coach John Kay took him 8 years to reach 100 wins. And that 44-20 win over Umbala-Tascasita back in 2021 is when he acquired 100 wins.
I was there for that game.
Were you really back in 2021? Sideline
I
reporting?
just realized that. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was.
That's neat. At number 6, we've got Chris Ketting. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. Chris Ketting of Canadian, recently retired as of this week, actually. Took him just 9 years and a 35-6 win over West Texas back in 2018 is what got him there. At number 7, D.W. Rutledge took him 9 years at Converse Judson to reach 100 wins. 21-14 win over San Antonio Marshall is what got him here. And I actually just realized this. So I went to a Judson game this past season. I can't even remember right now who they played, but it was a home game. And I didn't realize that the stadium was actually named after the famous D.W. Rutledge.
Yeah,
so that's really stinking cool.
He's definitely regarded as one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then at number 8, Brady Carney. He is still active there at Munster High School. Took him 9 years back in 2018. The 37-6 win over Valley View is what got him to that 100-win milestone.
Yeah, that's really impressive. Like, to put it into perspective, too, if you didn't do the math, not you, but the folks back home.
I did the math.
I know
I'm just
you
kidding.
did the
I'm
math.
joking.
I know you did the math. But obviously, the most amount of games that you can win in a season is 16. And so if you're going to times that by 8 years, you'd be at the peak number of games you could hit if you went undefeated for 8 years.
Right.
Is 128.
Right.
So, I mean, these guys that did it in 8 years, they're playing with 28 extra games that they possibly could have won. That's insane. Like, the consistency that takes for 8 years, like 8 years is like a third of your life.
Right. Exactly.
That's wild.
Yeah, it really is insane. I mean, to have that kind of record, it's crazy. And just to preface this once again, this is only UIL 11-man football. So this does not include 6-man, and this does not include private school. So again, we're only talking about UIL 11-man Texas high school football head coaches. Moving on to 200 wins, the coaches that reached to the 200-win milestone the fastest. And again, there at the top is Gary Joseph of Katy. At number 2, this should come as no surprise, we've got Scott Surratt, still obviously active at Carthage. Took him 16 years. And actually, he reached that 200-win milestone this year in 2022 with a 42-7 win over Pittsburgh. So that's pretty stinking cool. At number 3, Steve Lineweaver there at Euless Trinity. Took him 18 years to reach 200 wins. Back in 2010, it was a 50-3 win over North Richland Hills. And I found this out while doing this. His son is actually now the head coach at Euless Trinity. So his son has taken over at the helm there. Number 4, Todd Rogers of Argyle, of course still active. Took him 18 years. And he reached that milestone back in 2020 with a 45-7 win over Anna. Number 5, no introduction needed, John King of the Longview Lobos. Took him 19 years, and he reached this milestone actually this year in 2022 with a 48-11 win over Marshall. I actually remember that game. I don't know why, but I remember seeing the result of that game, and I think that was because it was
Coach
such a big milestone,
yeah.
right, for Coach King over there. At number 6, Brent West. Took him 19 years. He finished at Cisco. Took him 19 years back in 2019 with a 34-7 win over Anson. Number 7, Jason Herring of Refugio.
Yep.
I literally cannot. I just have to always stop and say Refugio because
instead of Refugio.
No, it's just I can't say it. It's just something in my mind where I'm like Refugio. I know how it's supposed to be pronounced. I just can't ever say it.
I can't say that. Rory. Like
Rory,
the name
yes,
Rory,
yes.
Obviously, I sound like a dying dog when I say it.
Yeah.
So I get it. Something about the way that the letters are put together does not compute.
Like I always see you say it, and I'm like, dang, I'm jealous of her. She can say it. But anyway, it took Coach Herring over there at Refugio 19 years to reach the 200 win milestone. That happened back in 2016 with a 69-20 win over Junction. And then lastly, up on this list, the newly retired Coach Tim Buchanan of Aledo. Took him 19 years. And that happened back in 2011 with a 62-28 win over Corsicana. So that was the list of coaches who reached 200 wins the fastest.
It's crazy that Gary Joseph is the only coach that has been on both lists so far. Like, if you want to really start talking about, and he's still a whole year ahead of everybody else when it comes to 200. Like, you want to talk about some people having, like, really, really a good stretch of teams. Like we mentioned the Lake Travis thing earlier with Hank Carter. Like they had 5 unbelievable years. So that really helps when it's like, okay, you're just starting out, you're doing that. It's amazing that he can do that. But then it was like, you want to really start talking about longevity here.
Exactly.
That Gary Joseph is the longevity factor.
Right, and extremely impressive. And then, like you said, like in this list, we have included coaches that have already retired. Like he's still going, and he's at the top of this list, which is which is even crazier to think about. So, all right, let's move on to 300 wins. The coaches that have reached that 300 win milestone the quickest. And at the very top, we've got Randy Allen of Highland Park. Took him 31 years, and he reached this milestone not even like recently, back in 2011 with a 41-27 win over Richardson Pierce. That's really impressive. Mm-hmm. That happened that long ago.
Yeah.
So, and he's still climbing. He's still there at Highland Park. Number 2, we've got no introduction. Phil Danaher. Took him 32 years at Corpus Christi Cow Island to reach that milestone. It happened back in 2005 with a 35-14 win over Waco. Number 3, Reginald Samples. It took him 32 years, and he reached this milestone back in 2021 with a 42-21 win over DeSoto. Were you at that game?
Yes, I was.
Didn't you interview him?
Yeah, I had
about
the
that after the
opportunity
game?
to interview Coach afterwards, and it was a lot of fun.
I remember that because that was a fantastic interview, by the way. Like it was really great. I actually went back to watch it for this, and then very impressive.
He goes, "You try and make me cry."
Exactly.
I was like, "Yes, I am, Coach."
Exactly.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that was a cool moment. At number 4, we got G.A. Moore of Salina. It took him 32 years. He reached that milestone back in 1995 with a 23-22 win over West Texas. Number 5, Denny Faith of Albany. It took him 33 years to reach that 300 win milestone. Number 6, we've got Tom Nolan. He once coached at Houston Lamar. It took him 33 years. Hit that milestone back in 2017 when his team got the victory over Alif
Alif.
I always get that wrong. I know there's a bunch of the schools, and I always get that wrong. 35-14 win. At number 7, we've got Charlie Johnston of Childress. It took him 33 years, and he hit this milestone back in 1999 with a 21-14 win over Midland Greenwood. And then rounding it all out at number 8, we've got Curtis Barbie. That's how you pronounce it?
I think so.
Of Newton. Took him 34 years, back in 2008 when he reached the milestone with a shutout win, 49-0 win over Buffalo. So now, that was the quickest to reach 300 wins. Now we've got the smallest category in the coaches that have reached 400 career wins. And there's only 3 of them because of how prestigious this really is. At number 1, Randy Allen. It took him 39 years to reach 400 wins. And just saying that, 39 years.
Crazy. I was lucky enough to get to do that interview as
That's
well.
right.
I did coach samples after 300, and then I did Coach Allen after 400. That was another really unbelievable moment. I actually got to walk down onto the field, and his lovely wife was standing there, and I was waiting for him to get done, kind of embracing his players and give him a time to soak it all in. And I talked to Miss Allen, and I said, "Congratulations, you should be very proud." And she was, it was a really, really cool moment. She stopped and gave me a big old hug, and she didn't know exactly who I was. You know, she had seen me over the years, but it wasn't a close personal relationship. And she was so proud of him, and so that was a really cool moment.
Right. And I feel like, too, in that moment, 400 wins is a lot, but I don't think there's a lot of people that know how hard that really is. Because, I mean, looking at this list, there's only 3 coaches that have ever done it in history. So it's like, that's a really big accomplishment.
Well, and for so long, it was Coach Danaher and Coach Allen, chasing G.A. Moore. Like, he's a little bit of an older guy than different time period. And so it had always been, okay, hey, look, like, we're chasing that. You're chasing those big ones. And then they both did it. But I know it was just extra special considering Randy Allen, being in the company of 2 of the greatest high school football coaches of all time, did it quicker than they did. Right.
It's so stinking impressive to reach that milestone, and I'm sure we'll have more coaches to do it here soon. But
it's impressive
as of
to be a part of education for 39 years.
I know. I mean,
like,
it's a
he's going into
business.
his 43rd, but to be, I mean, think about loving on kids like that and being out at practice every single day for 43 years.
Right.
That's crazy.
That's seriously insane.
People don't work that long.
No.
Normally, people aren't bankers for that long, much less out there coaching high school kids.
No. And what I love about, last thing about Randy Allen, but what I love about him as a person too is that he still has that old coach style to him, with the fedora,
with his hat.
It's so stinking cool. I mean, he's never really changed in that sense, and I think that's really cool to kind of take a timeline back into history of football. But he reached that milestone back in 2019 with a 42-35 win over Lancaster in overtime. Then Phil Danaher, took him 40 years to reach 400 wins back in 2013 with a 42-0 win over Alice. And then G.A. Moore is the last coach on this list. Took him 41 years to reach that 400 win milestone back in 2004 with a 22-13 win over Dallas St. Mark's. So
I forgot that Highland Park game went into overtime. That because I was like, I'm gonna literally have to go cover Highland Park again next week if they don't win because I was working for Bally and they wanted that interview. I was like, it's either going to be me or someone else,
Right. But seriously, what an impressive list of coaches. I mean, all the way to 100 wins, too. I mean, seriously, so impressive, each and every one of those coaches. I'm just so proud that we get to be a part of Texas high school football and just learn every day about the history of it because it truly is one of the most distinctive and incredible sports, I think, in the country.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the fact, too, that we are able to just talk ball with those guys. And they've always, it's so funny because those coaches, all the coaches that we just talked about are the exact type of coaches that, like, they want to take time to talk to us. And they always say, thank you so much for covering our kids, And I think that goes back into how in the world are you doing that job for 42 years,
Exactly.
And it's like, because they love the kids. That's why when we ask them, hey, can you fill out this questionnaire? They fill out the questionnaire. When you ask them, hey, can I grab an interview? They're like, absolutely, because it's spotlighting my kids.
Exactly. Which brings up a good point. If you haven't turned your questionnaire in, do it.
Yeah, we have like 30
on a magazine
something
right now. Yeah, we are in a very low number left, so please turn that in if you have not.
Especially because I know that y'all have been hearing from Tepper and Step a lot to do it, but eventually, once they run out of juice, then it is left to Mallory and I because we're the muscle of this organization here. So if you don't want us beating down your door and Mallory threatening you, you better turn in your questionnaire.
Do it. Well, there you go. There's some Texas high school football history and trivia for you. We'll continue this series, I guess, probably through the next couple weeks because, I mean, we've got so much stuff. We can switch it into players and pretty much do whatever we want with this. So,
and yeah, I think that was like the biggest thing. From last week, we wanted to show just very basic, here's the UIL 11-man coaches that are currently active that have, like, here's just kind of the numbers. Today, I think we talked a lot, like obviously Scott Surratt was the main topic of conversation last week with the playoff wins that he's had, 71-7 in 16 years, and 9 of them are state championships. Like, if you want to start like GOAT talk of who is the GOAT, he's making a path for himself. But I also think that a big portion of this is looking at people like Gary Joseph, who reached 100 first, who reached 200 first, who are still going.
Guys like Randy Allen, and then even the GOATs like Phil Danaher. I mean, there's a different topic of conversation.
G.A. Moore.
Exactly.
Is there a new wave? As I feel like G.A. Moore, Gordon Wood, all of that is kind of like the old school. Here was the fundamental key pieces of what made Texas high school football Texas high school football. I feel like we're finally starting to enter that era of, okay, here are the next guys we need to be talking about. Like Randy Allen and Phil Danaher are kind of in the same circle. And then I think that people like Scott Surratt, and if you want to include Gary Joseph in either one of those.
Tim Buchanan, yeah.
Tim Buchanan, exactly.
Right,
like,
exactly.
It's funny to watch the kind of progression of little pockets that you can see. And some people put a lot more, stock into what the playoffs numbers were rather than, okay, yeah, they reached 300 wins or 100 wins the quickest, but how long is their longevity there? So the GOAT conversation will always be a thing. I think if you want to talk about a new school GOAT, I think that it's Scott Surratt.
Yeah.
I don't have any reason to not think that.
I completely agree with you.
I think if you want to talk about Phil Danaher, Gary Joseph, or Randy Allen being in that one pocket, and then obviously the fundamental ones, I think you have to evolve and look at the best of all time for different eras.
Yeah, because you can't just put those two, I guess, in the same pocket just because of how, just the length between the two, age groups and stuff like that. But yeah, I really do think that it's a good thing to split it up between, like you said, the new wave and then I guess the old school kind of coaching wave.
Right.
Because things have developed, things have evolved.
Yes.
In the style of coaching, the way of coaching, like it's just right that we do split those up into two separate categories.
Right.
Like how we did.
It's like Scott Surratt has 9 state championships. He's never lost in a state championship. I also don't think that Scott Surratt is going to coach for 43 years.
Right.
Like, I think that he will have one of the absolute most decorated, careers. But I don't think that he's going to be Randy Allen and be coaching when he is, I don't know how old Coach Allen is, but approaching the upper part of the scale there.
Exactly. I agree.